screen behind me where Angelo Mathews is holding not one but two helmets in his hand and arguing rather pointlessly with the Bangladesh players is one that is going to live on in cricket infamy forever, because this was the moment when Angelo Mathews was desperately trying to plead with the Bangladesh players to give up their appeal and ensure that he wouldn't be declared out via the timed out method. Unfortunately, Bangladesh's players did not relent, or fortunately, depending on what your perspective is in this matter, and Angelo Mathews went down in cricketing history. He's now the first player to be timed out in the history of international cricket. It's happened before, 6 times to be precise, but only in domestic games. This is the first time you saw it in an international game. So, a lot of people are, of course, arguing about whether or not this is something that even should be done, and once again, spirit of the game is coming into play. But there is plenty of confusion I have noticed around even the rules that exist in the first place, and that's an understandable thing. Cricket as a sport has many rules, and this was unfortunately one of those that more often than not many people actually had to think about. And the reason for this is because the discretion for enforcing this would often be with the fielding captain, and more often than not they just chose not to impose it. This was that one time where the fielding captain went on and imposed it. So what is the rule? Why exactly did it come into play in this case, and was it right for it to be done in the first place? Going over the rule first and foremost, and this is important, it's part of its rule 40.1, which is timed out, and the rule simply reads that after the fall of a wicket or the retirement of a batter, the incoming batter must, unless time has been called, be ready to receive the ball, or for the other batter to be ready to receive the next ball within 3 minutes of the dismissal or retirement. If this requirement is not met, the incoming batter will be timed out. Now, it is worth noting that this is just how the rule reads specifically. How is it that this rule is imposed is entirely down to, as I had mentioned earlier, the fielding captain. So if the fielding captain feels that 3 minutes have elapsed and I can go to the umpire and appeal, then it is actually put out there. Otherwise, it's not, because another very famous instance in 2007 was when Sourav Ganguly was actually taking 6. He took about 6 minutes to come onto the field during a test match between South Africa and India. And despite the fact that the opposition captain, that was Graham Smith, was well within his rights to appeal for the timeout and therefore get Ganguly out dismissed, Smith chose not to. Now, there is some context behind that. Ganguly was actually coming up to bat earlier than planned and therefore was caught unawares when he had to go out to play. But the simple fact of the matter is Smith could have, if he so chose, actually appealed at that point and it would have been upheld. He didn't appeal, and that is why Ganguly lived through, or rather was not dismissed, timed out. Mathews was not so lucky because Shakib Al Hasan did not withdraw his review. But if you remember a lot of these, let's say, images that were coming on your screens, you realize that Angelo Mathews was very unhappy with the entire ordeal. Now, of course, you would be unhappy if you're going to be declared out, but why exactly was he this, let's say, animated to begin with? Well, first off, it is worth noting that despite the fact that he was legally timed out, he had in fact reached his crease before the deadline of 3 minutes. He was there at the crease and was actually taking guard. He was putting on his helmet, and the helmet strap ended up breaking. That is why he wasn't ready to face the ball within the allocated time period. This helmet strap breaking is the key. Once it broke, that was why the delay happened, because Mathews signaled to the dressing room, who then sent out another player with a helmet that would in theory probably not be breaking. And because of the delay that took place between Mathews getting ready to face his first delivery as well as the dismissal of Sadira Samaravikrama on the previous ball, that is the only reason why Shakib could appeal. And I must say, it was a pretty clever bit of, let's say, gamesmanship from Shakib, for one, to be aware properly of the rule in place. Because what happens more often than not is that a lot of people are not even aware sometimes of the many major intricacies that do exist in the sport of cricket. An example of that I can give you is that in 2007, when India and Pakistan faced off in a bowl-out during the T20 World Cup, which India, you'd remember, won handsomely. They won it 3-0. Shoaib Malik, who was then the Pakistan captain, said, we didn't even know this was going to be a thing. Now imagine not knowing something as basic as that. But simple fact is, it does happen. Shakib, on the other hand, very aware of how the rules were playing out and therefore chose to appeal. Now, let's make it back to the clear and obvious thing that a lot of people are talking about. Is this something that should have been done? Was it within the spirit of cricket? And to that I say, look, the timed out rule is well within the rules. This isn't even a case of like the non-strikers run out or the munker, to give it a colloquial term, whereby more often than not it was categorized as an unfair play. So even if it was within the rules, it was kind of categorized in an unfair play to give it that bit of a gray area that did exist at that point in time within the rules. However, recently even that was changed. The non-strikers run out is now considered a fair mode of dismissal. This, however, has always been a fair mode of dismissal. In fact, there's also a provision, if you read further into the rules, that the umpire can declare the game's result in favor of the other team if the batter doesn't show up, or if there is no batsman who comes even within a certain period of time. So it was a very clever ploy from skipper Shakib, and truth be told, if you ask me, spirit of the game, look, the only spirits that you really should be bothered about are the haunted ones or the ones that you can consume. Those are the only type of spirits you should really be focused on, because quite frankly, if we then really go down to, oh, let's play with the spirit of the game, then you may as well not have rules and you may as well just be playing the sport on vibes and feelings. That's not how you play a sport. Sports are governed by a rule book, a law book, for a reason. It is because you want to ensure that if a certain things happen, you have a provision ready to be able to deal with it in an accurate way. So spirit, I don't think should be a thing. Remember when Johnny Bairstow was stumped out by Alex Carey during the Ashes? Most people absolutely slandered England for taking the spirit of the game line, and rightfully so. You remember when Jos Buttler was run out of the non-strikers end by Ravichandran Ashwin in that 2019 IPL game? Most people slandered Buttler and many others for taking the spirit of the game defense, and rightfully so. Spirit doesn't come into it. Play by the rules and play fair. Shakib actually did both, even if you want to question his intent, because truth be told, he could have probably given him a bit of leeway and said, nah, his helmet's broken, it's okay, let him play. But he chose not to, and he said, you know what, it's within the rules, I will appeal, and that is why Mathews was given out. We hope this video has cleared up some of the misconceptions that do exist around this rule and made it a little clearer. If it did, you can show us your appreciation by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, subscribing to our channel, tapping that bell icon. Also leave us a comment, tell us your thoughts on the dismissal. We love hearing from you guys. Also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're on all those social media platforms. Don't forget to check out and download the SportsTak app, and also look at the website. It's in both English and Hindi based on the language of your choice. Last but not least, stay tuned to the channel and check out some other videos we posted. Plenty more coming your way, including a nice interesting discussion on this particular game once it's done. For now though, from my side, it's goodbye.